Hey everyone, Kevin from MechanicalAdvantage.com. About a year ago, I told you about some changes that were coming to the Fusion360 CAD user interface and how I could turn them on and start getting used to them. This video, I want to tell you about some changes that are coming to the CAM environment and how you can start to get prepared for them now and what those changes are going to be. And they have to do with the Fusion360 tool library. So I'm going to highlight some of the things that I think are pretty awesome about this tool library, and I'm also going to put a longer link, or a link to a longer video that CJ from the Fusion360 team did, who's working on the tool library, so you can see a more in-depth look at what this tool library can do beyond what I'm going to show you here. So the first thing that I did is I went out to cam.autodesk.com/hsmtools, where you can go to different vendors who have made their tools available for download. And what I did is I went out here and I downloaded the Helical Solutions end mills. I downloaded that library, chose for Fusion360, imported it into Fusion so that I had all the tools that were available there. There are a lot of tools when you get this. So I put them in their own library and then I copy and paste them into the library that I want to use them in individually rather than having everything to sort through all the time. Another tool that they have is called Machining Advisor Pro that Helical makes. So I just went to Helical tool and signed up for an account there, and then here's the address to go ahead and get there. And on there, this Machining Advisor Pro, you can kind of tell the tool number you're using from Helical, the material, what kind of machining strategy you want to use, and then you're asked for some other inputs like what your machine max RPM and inch per minute can do. And then this tool brings back some information for you like axial depth of cut, radial depth of cuts, feed per tooth, what RPM you should be running at, things like that. So I kind of wanted to take these values. I did one for traditional pocketing, I did one for slotting, and I did one for finishing. So this is where I went to get the numbers that you're going to see, and it's for tool number 82406, which is an 1/8 inch 3-flute carbide end mill with a 10 thou corner radius on it. So now that I have all this information, what I want to do is I want to hop back over into Fusion. So I'm going to go ahead and make that switch, and I'm going to come into this part. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go turn on this new tool library, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go to my name and preferences, and then when this pops up, I'm going to go to the preview features, and I'm going to sort because there's going to be lots of preview features now. So I'm just going to do tool library, and it's going to filter down for me. And I'm going to check this box to turn it on and hit apply and OK. Now I've just enabled the new tooling library, the preview. I should also note that what I'm going to show here, some of the things I don't like about it, are currently have been changed and updated. They're just not propagated to our released builds of Fusion yet. And there are more changes along the way. So if you're trying this out, no, it is still in preview and there are changes that are coming. So don't give up on it right away if you don't like it. It does some pretty cool things. From the manage dropdown now, I'm going to say tool library. And here you're going to see it pop up, and you should probably pretty immediately start to see the different look and feel of the tool library. So here you can see I've got my cloud libraries that I've been working on. That's that Helical Solutions library I was talking about where it contains everything. I've got some local libraries, and then we still have the same sample libraries that we had in the past, with the exception of some of these sample tools now, because they have different cutting capabilities, we can, it just shows like there's one library, but there's all kinds of different things in here like the aluminum and the steel and all that. They're just grouped under one heading now that it can do some special things. So what I want to do is I want to go to this library right here, this SILX7 library that I'm setting up for my machine in my garage. And I want to go through and set up, this is that tool that I was just looking at. So I want to go grab this tool and I want to edit it. And I went through and I filled out some cutter information for this already. So I went to the general tab, and some of this comes across from the tool library. I went to the cutter tab, set some things around here. Again, some of this stuff comes from the tool library when you import it in. I don't have a holder on here yet. I could select a holder if I want to put on here like a BT30 blank, or go build my own holder. But what I'm more interested in is showing you the cutting data and what's pretty awesome about this. So we have the default preset, this is called, and I've already gone through and I set this up for high efficiency milling. In Fusion that would be adaptive clearing. And so it's called default preset, but I could go through and I could rename this. So let's just call this adaptive clearing. So that's my adaptive clearing preset. But what I can do with this new tool library is we can make other presets for the tool. So I'm going to go do another one, and let's rename this one to be Pocket. Or pocketing, however you want to go about naming your operation. So I've got this set for Pocket. And now what I'm going to go through is I'm going to change some of the information. So I want my spindle speed to be at 12,000. I'm going to go through and change my cutting feed rate. I'm going to change that down to be 42 inches a minute. You can see that some of these fields are now linked, and you're going to see that there's like FX associated with them, letting you know that they're functions of other parameters that are on the tool library tab. So I want 42 inches per minute, and then I want an inch per tooth of 0.0012. So 0.0012 is going to be my and you can see that starts to change my cutting feed rates. So in this case, maybe I'm a little on the fast side according to the website. So let's go back and change that back to 42. I'm sorry, I want this one to be 42. And there we go. It comes out to be 0.00117, and they want a 0.0012, which pretty much rounds up to the same thing. We could change some of these other feed rates in here as well, but I think you get the idea. So I've got my cutting data for my pocketing, and we'll go to the post processor. It's still going to be tool number 2, so let's go back to the cutting data, and let's add another parameter for this. So I'm going to go ahead and hit plus. I'm going to rename this one, and now let's call this the slotting parameter. So we'll call this slotting. Again, we're going to leave it at 12,000 RPM. I want to change my cutting feed rate to be 23. We'll match the lead in and lead out feed rates along with that. And then let's come down to the feed per tooth, and that should be around 7 thou, which it's pretty close to that right there, what Fusion calculated it out to be, so I'm going to leave that alone. We'll leave the rest of it the same. Now let's come back to the pocketing, because I missed a couple things that we can do here. If I go to the pocketing, what I can do is I can say, okay, I want to set a step down for this, and I want to set a step over for this value. So for the step down, the machining advisor gave me what we should be doing for a radial step is point, I guess I'm on the axial field. So I'm going to go ahead and set my step down, and that's going to be 0.1563. And then for the axial step over, they said we should go 0.065. So we're going to put those two numbers in there. And now, when I have these values checked, I won't have to pre-populate them. It's going to suck these values into my operation. Let's go over to the slotting, and we'll check both of these as well. So the step over for this one is going to be 0.125. And the step down is also going to be 0.125 for both of those. So I've got these automatically set for me. And I could go through and do the same thing for the adaptive clearing if I want to. I'll skip it for this case, and I'll just do it in the tool library. When I create the operation, we'll just do it there. But I'm going to go ahead and accept that now. And so there I have one tool that has different feeds and speeds for different operations that I'm going to do. Now you could also do this to set it for different feeds and speeds for things like maybe I'm going to do some copper, and that's going to have some different feeds and speeds information, or I'm going to do plastic with these tools. So you can have one tool that can cut multiple materials, and you don't have to keep changing the feeds and speeds info for that tool. You can set it once and you're sort of done. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, and now I have this part set up. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to do a 2D adaptive clearing, and I'm going to go select a tool, and I'm going to go to that aluminum library. I'm going to find that 1/8 inch tool, and I'm going to tell it I want my adaptive clearing operation here now. And so I could come over in my geometry, and I'm going to select, I'll just choose that face down there. For my heights, the stock top selected contours is great. Here's where I could come over here and edit my expression. Tool diameter times 20%. Of course, I should be using the helical tool to tell me exactly what I should be doing here, but I'm just going to kind of wing it. I want to do multiple depths, and I'm going to do 2 times the tool diameter. So we're an 1/8 inch tool, so I'm going to say 1/4 inch of a cut. I want to leave 10 thou on the floor and the wall. That looks good to me. We'll come over to the linking tab. I'll tell it I want the tool to stay down most of the time. We'll put a little lift on here, a little micro lift, and when it's not cutting material, I want it cutting through the air at 400 inches a minute. And I'll go ahead and hit OK. And now we'll get our adaptive clearing. It takes a couple step downs to finish up that pocket, so everything is great there. Let's go and do the other pocket with the pocketing operation. So I'm going to say 2D and pocket. Grab the same tool, but this time I want to grab the pocketing. So we'll go ahead and select that. Now if I go to the geometry, I'm going to choose this other pocket that I have here. My heights and everything are going to be good. Let's go to my passes tab. Here now, if I were to go and turn on multiple depths, it's going to have the multiple depths set to the 0.1563 that I set up for, and the maximum step over is already set. And so it brought those parameters across for me so that I didn't have to reset them. I'll change this back to be 10 thou and 10 thou, and I think everything is good here. So I'll go ahead and hit OK. And now I get my pocketing toolpath that goes down and does what it needs to do using the pocket. The last thing I'm going to do is a slotting operation. So I'm going to say 2D and slot. I want to go select a tool. So again, I'll use that same tool in the library, and I'll choose my slotting operation. From my geometry, I'm going to go ahead and select the slot at the very bottom down there, so that'll calculate what I want. My heights are going to be good. On my passes, I'll turn on multiple depths, and it's going to set that and turn it on automatically for me, so everything's good there. And I'll go ahead and choose OK. And there you can see I get a slotting toolpath that goes and does what it needs to do based on the parameters that I gave it in the tool library. So pretty handy options that are inside of this tool library would allow you to build the tool once and set it up for multiple operations and multiple tool materials that tool is able to cut. I encourage you to go ahead and give that tool library a try. You can turn it on and turn it off at will, so you can go back to the old way if you want. There are some things about it that I'm not a huge fan of. Let's go ahead and maybe take a look at that. So if I were to go do, let's just choose a facing operation, and I'll go select my tool. One of the things I hate is that for my fractional tools, they do not show up as fractions, and instead they show up as decimals. I believe that's already been addressed, and we're going to see improvements coming up on that. I'm not a big fan of having the diameter be so small. I'd like it to be the same size as the rest of the text, so kind of a nitpicky thing. But overall, I think this is really cool, especially when you start to combine it with the different milling filters that you can do. So we could say, all right, I want to look for bullnose end mills and between different sizes. So the filters also let you do diameters now. And in the video that I'm going to link to, you can see that you can do a range. So I could say, show me all the cutters between this size and this size. So if I go from 0 to 0.25 here, I should get a couple of tools that would pop up that would match that value. So some really nice improvements coming along. I encourage you guys to give it a try and report your feedback and what you think about this. I'll put a link to the Autodesk forum where you can give some feedback on the tool library preview as well. So as always, thanks for watching, and hopefully you learned something.